Today, we have the pleasure of gathering together with both familiar faces and new acquaintances, and it fills me with great joy. The Nanshan Study Club in Shanghai has naturally evolved into Nanshan Family Education, and this is truly remarkable. While I may not feel entirely qualified to deliver a speech for today's opening ceremony, I am here to share my perspective on the importance of family learning and why we should embrace it. The concept of family learning is deeply ingrained in our cultural heritage. It holds a significant place in traditional Chinese society. Throughout history, important knowledge and valuable skills were often passed down within families, transferring and preserving wisdom. Thus, the concept of family learning originated from this practice of knowledge inheritance in ancient China. There are many literati in China whose knowledge and foundation were not formed in formal schools, but rather through family learning. I have some colleagues like that, and when I compare myself to them, I realize that I don't have family learning. Their family learning provides them with a deep foundation, so later on, when they study philosophy, they have a much stronger foundation than me. For example, in traditional Chinese medicine, its inheritance often takes the form of family learning within a medical family. Nowadays, education has broken through the basic patterns of traditional Chinese society and we have modern educational institutions. Our parents send us to official schools, and this breaks the traditional foundation of family learning. So why bring up this concept again? Why revive this concept? In fact, every Chinese person today knows that we are in a very difficult era, and this society has many problems, one of which is contemporary Chinese education. Every parent deeply feels the pressure of environment in which our next generation is growing up, an environment filled with various inexplicable pressures. Our children have lost a healthy and normal childhood and adolescence. I think I haven't exaggerated this point. I have also experienced it myself. I was born in the 1950s, and my son is from the 1980s. Later, I discovered that the environment in which those born in the 1990s and 2000s grew up was even worse than that of the 1980s. This severe problem is only increasing. Therefore, facing such a situation, today's Chinese parents are actually in a very awkward position. We have undergone a major transformation ourselves, experiencing waves of market reforms. We have worked hard to improve our lives, with some people succeeding while others felt lost. And this is how we have lived for the past 30 years. Throughout our own growth process, we have certainly continued to care about our children's education and their growth, but we ourselves have undergone significant changes. Recently, I discovered something. There was a psychiatrist at Peking University's Psychological Counseling Center who gave an important speech. This speech, given in 2016, later went viral on the internet, and editors from Liberation Daily and Shanghai Education Television called me to discuss this issue. This professor, the psychiatrist from Peking University, introduced a new concept called hollow heart syndrome. He said that nearly 30% of Peking University freshmen suffer from this syndrome. He mentioned that he coined the term hollow heart syndrome because this condition cannot be classified as a mental illness. In the field of mental illness or psychological counseling, he couldn't assign it a specific name. If it were depression or anxiety, it would be clear. Clinically, it can be diagnosed and categorized, and there are medications available for treatment. For example, when faced with depression, he mentioned the last resort that doctors are familiar with, called electroconvulsive therapy, which involves electric shocks. After undergoing this treatment, a severely depressed patient can maintain health and stability for a considerable period of time. So, many Peking University students come to him for counseling, and their symptoms appear to be severe depression. In their diaries and conversations with classmates, they frequently express suicidal thoughts. So, what does he do? He starts by prescribing medication, but if that doesn't work, he resorts to electroconvulsive therapy. However, even after trying all these treatments, they remain ineffective. Therefore, he says that this condition can no longer be described using psychiatric classification. It doesn't belong to that category. That's why he coined the term hollow heart syndrome. He gave a few examples, and one student wrote in his diary, "I have never truly lived for myself since I was young. I should say I have never lived at all. I don't know the meaning of life." This person is an exceptionally outstanding student. I forgot which province he came from, but he was a student who was admitted to Peking University through a special recommendation. In his first semester at Peking University, he ranked first in all his courses and achieved excellent grades. He had high intelligence and was hardworking, and all the teachers and classmates considered him an outstanding student. However, this is how he expressed himself in his diary. "So I watched that doctor's speech online because the education television station asked me to take a look. After they showed it to me, I carefully watched it, and it weighed heavily on my heart. It really highlighted the issue. In other words, I believe hollow heart syndrome is not limited to these college students. In fact, our entire society is plagued by it. As adults, as parents, how many of us can articulate the meaning of living in today's era? Can we express it? Does our own life have meaning? Do we have clear ideals? Besides striving for money, can we provide any other meaning? If we ourselves lack meaning, how can we make our children feel that life is meaningful? Faced with such questions, we are all at a loss for words. Today's parents can only tell their children that they must meet the requirements of the school education, they must be qualified, and their grades must improve. Do you know? You need to attend a prestigious high school, you know that, right? In the future, you have to go to a prestigious university. At the very least, you must pass the college entrance examination. There are certain schools you should avoid. For example, if you couldn't even get into a key school in your district, then you have little hope in the college entrance examination, and the best result you can achieve is enrolling in a vocational college. I make it clear to you that your future, the path you take in life, depends entirely on the grades you achieve in school now, the university you attend in the future, and the high-status profession you choose. After graduation, you need to find a well-paying job. Apart from saying these things to them, can we express any other meaning of life? So, when faced with the phenomenon of hollow heart syndrome among college students, let's take a look at whether our society also suffers from it. Of course, we cannot control it, but I believe that our society will improve. In this regard, we still have hope. The problem lies in the fact that we currently don't feel it is moving in a better direction. It continues to decline. From what I know, even kindergartens now start teaching elementary school knowledge in order to secure a place in a better elementary school. In the face of this pressure, what can our parents do? We know we must provide our children with a better path, but we don't know how to help them, so we have to participate in the competition, right? We have to compete with other parents and fight each other, right? In this educational situation, our nation finds itself in a very awkward position. That's why I have always believed that Nanshan family education from Nanshan Study Club has emerged in response to this situation. Individuals have destinies, and nations also have destinies. Our nation is at a critical juncture of destiny. We can't imagine that in a populous country of over 1 billion people, so many families with even a little ability are trying their best to send their children to study abroad. Why is that? In the United States, the sheer number of Chinese students studying abroad there is truly astonishing. And after they finish their studies, many of them don't want to come back, they prefer to stay there, right? Then the Americans finally came up with the lottery system, where you leave it up to luck. You may get a job, but you have to rely on the lottery for your visa, just like getting a license plate in Shanghai. So many young Chinese, including talented individuals, are heading to the United States or even other European countries. This phenomenon truly saddens me, and it is not a normal way for our nation. Even in this era of globalization, other countries also have young people studying abroad, which aligns with the original concept of studying abroad, right? They go to another country to learn things that are better than what their country can offer, and then they come back to reunite with their families and serve their nation. Why have these fundamental meanings of life disappeared? In trying to understanding this phenomenon, our destiny as a nation, and as individuals are also called into question. That's why I believe that Nanshan family education, no matter how small its scale may be, is actually a very important matter. Its significance should not be underestimated from a long-term perspective. Let us parents come together to communicate with each other, learn from each other, and see if we can rebuild the meaning of our lives. First and foremost, we need to rebuild the meaning of our own lives. Perhaps we have been successful, we have achieved success on the stage of the market economy. But is this success still something hollow? Where does its value lie? Therefore, these questions force us, people of our age, I see many younger people here and some around my age, to rethink after 30 years of reform and opening up. We need to pause and think about our brief lives and the future of our own descendants. We Chinese are the nation that cares the most about the next generation in the world. So what have we done for the future, for the next generation? I am not concerned with other matters not under our control, but destiny is one, and so is your child's destiny. Whether your child will be successful or not, whether they will be wealthy or poor, you may consult their birth charts, and I fully believe in this. But of course, I'm not promoting fortune-telling here. We don't have control over wealth and status, so Confucius said, not knowing one's fate, how can one be a true gentleman? Look, wealth and status are predetermined, they are not within our control. If our children spend their entire lives pursuing fame, wealth, or the goal of becoming a business elite, their lives would be very pitiful. In fact, these things may be predetermined in their birth charts, right? I believe that the greatest responsibility of us parents toward our next generation is to help them truly grow spiritually. Even if they achieve some kind of success in the external realm in the future, or even become social elites, they should still not have hollow hearts. This is important, and it is something we should take charge of. It's called being a true human being. Therefore, firstly, we need to understand that everyone has his own destiny, right? So many of us parents are what? Chasing illusions and pursuing the meaningless. I believe that I used to chase illusions and pursue the meaningless as well. Later on, I learned a bit about fortune-telling and understood myself and my son through looking at our birth chart, right? I once placed great hopes on him, but later, I erased them all. It doesn't mean anything, it's not within our control. If my son ends up working as a dish carrier in a restaurant in the future, I believe his life is not a failure. Do our parents today have the courage to think like this? If your child ultimately doesn't get into college, or even fails to get into a vocational school and only attends a technical school, what then? Become an auto mechanic. Can you judge that your son has failed? We must answer this question and not evade it. Such a scenario is actually possible, so I think we need to adjust our thinking. Whether we realize this or not, the entire value system of our society is imperceptibly dictating our goals and aspirations. When my son took the college entrance examination, I had high hopes for him to be admitted to Fudan University. Why? At that time, Fudan had a preferential policy, a policy that many of you here are aware of, right? It said that if the children of Fudan faculty members scored above a certain threshold in the college entrance examination, what would happen? They would be admitted to Fudan. This preferential policy no longer exists now, but it was still in place when my son took the college entrance examination. So I had high hopes that he would at least meet that standard, and if he scored above the threshold, he could get into Fudan. From the moment my son was born, I envisioned a bright future with him, and on that day, the sky was particularly clear, and I thought that he would achieve greater accomplishments than me, right? I didn't want him to end up like me, feeling mediocre. At that time, I didn't have a high opinion of myself, and I hoped that my son would surpass me. This is a natural thought for every parent, to project an unfulfilled ideal onto their child. I carefully planned his growing up, and my wife also agreed with my plan, right? Step by step, he did well in kindergarten, in the Luan district, right? What was the name of the road? Ruijin Road Kindergarten, a very good kindergarten. Later, he entered Luan District 2nd Central Primary School, another good school, right? And then he went to Fudan Affiliated Middle School, right? Affiliated Middle School. And then we aimed for Fudan Affiliated High School. But he said, I don't want to go to Fudan Affiliated High School, I like Yangpu High School. So I said, I'll listen to you. As long as it's a key school in the city, it's fine. So he went on that path, and finally, the results of the college entrance examination came out. When I looked at his score, I immediately called the admissions office director at Fudan University and asked him to evaluate the score and tell me what kind of school he could get into. He said that his score was just a little short of being able to enter a university. After years of struggle, now the answer is revealed, you know? I rode my bicycle and circled Siping Road 3 times alone, you know? The answer is revealed. 3 days later, my heart was calm, and I reflected on myself. Did I miss something? Later, I discovered that there were quite a few things I didn't do. I unknowingly imposed my values on him, and there were also some things related to his classmate. Unfortunately, during the 2nd semester of his junior year, he fell in love. Can't he wait a bit longer to start dating? Later, when he started dating, I had a conversation with him. I said that dating is not a bad thing, right? You're at that age, right? It's okay to experience a bit of romance. If you're dating, there are 2 types, negative effects and positive effects, right? Both of you will have the college entrance examination in the future, and you can encourage, motivate, and help each other. Move forward together. I hope it's like that. So I didn't oppose him dating, but the result was the opposite. At the most critical moment, he experienced a heartbreak. Nobody knew, but he actually got drunk one time during the most stressful period of the college entrance examination. He refused to sleep at night and drank until he was drunk. As a result, he achieved that score. Later, I realized that fate also plays a role. Regarding this matter, I never considered it a failure. He has now become a very diligent student. Even if I tell him not to study, he insists on studying. He is now at London Business School. He got into LBS. London Business School is ranked 2nd or 3rd in the world, they say. Of course, I also feel a bit regretful. What does he do now? He's a professional manager. His dream is to become a professional manager with a high salary. I think it's a tough job. But anyway, it's his destiny, and we won't discuss it. Now he wants to take additional courses, what we call humanities courses. He deeply appreciates the importance of humanities. He often calls me from overseas, and each call lasts over an hour, discussing Chinese philosophy. It's true because he has experienced many setbacks. He is married now and has a daughter, so they have started taking additional courses. The post-80s generation is making up for the lack of humanities education they didn't pay much attention to during their basic education. Whether it's history, literature, or philosophy, they now realized that these subjects are more important than the technical disciplines they had studied before. He has faced multiple setbacks in Japan, and had nowhere to turn to for counseling. He called me and I told him to read a book. He asked, "What book should I read?" I told him to read The Platform Sutra, 6th century CE, written by the 6th patriarch of Zen Buddhism, starting with the first section, chapter on practice and enlightenment. I guided him in this way. At that moment, he started to realize that his old man was somewhat interesting. So that's my understanding, from my personal experience. I think now is still not too late, and I often remind him of the things he must read, right? These things don't have a direct connection to the work he actually does, but they will change his attitude towards life. The change in life attitude is the most important thing. Your current life attitude is not something you formed on your own, it's something that a disconnected era, a society with ailments, has given you, and you don't realize it. Can you adjust your life attitude now?